Hello everyone, welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to be sewing the Juniper Dress, and for the first time in 2 years, I am attempting to sew a zipper. So let's see how it goes. Okay, you heard right. This is my first zipper pretty much ever, okay? I took one sewing class back when I first started where they were kind of teaching us the essentials of sewing, so like turning on the machine, the grain, etc. And it was really informative, but I did have to miss one class because I had a work trip, and that is the class where they made zipper pouches. So even in that little sewing experience, I never sewed a zipper. So I think I've kind of developed a little bit of fear around zippers because of this, and I've been able to get away with this because a lot of patterns that require zippers are easy to adapt. I, in particular, am very fond of the Lydia Naomi back elastic hack. I don't know if you've seen that. I'll link it in the description because it is very, very useful for me in sewing. And so I've been using that hack for most of the dresses that require a zipper. I just kind of do an elasticated back, or I use ties, right? And so I've been able to sort of get away with not putting in a zipper. I also do feel like personally I like things that are a little more flexible. As you know, a normal person, my weight fluctuates, and I prefer to have something that I can sort of like adjust a little bit more easily. And you can do that with elastic or with drawstrings, right? And so the zipper is in itself more prohibitive in that way. I'm making excuses. I'm definitely making excuses here. I also feel like I have really upped my game in sewing in the last 6 months in particular. I feel like my skill has gotten a lot better. I do know how to do a lot of the things that are being asked of me when I try a new pattern, when I want to make something new. And that has been really satisfying, right? I feel like I'm getting into this groove of really everything is flowing in my sewing, and I feel like that kind of makes me an intermediate, right? I'm kind of past the beginner stage or the advanced beginner stage, and I want to consider myself an intermediate sewist at this point. However, okay, sewists and generally tailors, seamstresses, all of these different titles that we use for different groups of the sewing community, they're pretty strict about what they consider intermediate versus what they consider beginner level sewing. And that means that really they are saying you're not an intermediate unless you can do these specific things. And I feel like that might be limiting to some people. Some people might see that and be like, oh, who cares? You can call yourself an intermediate even if you don't know how to do X, Y, Z because you've put in this much time, or you have this much experience, or this is how your garments turn out. I understand that, right? I don't think that we should be putting sort of or gatekeeping different levels of sewing. However, okay, I also come from the world of education, and I have to say I do like a rubric. I do like something that says this is the standard and you need to be able to do this to move up to the next level, right? That doesn't mean that people don't need scaffolds, right? That doesn't mean that you might not need an adaptation. You might not need to do certain things in order to get to that level. All those things are true. And I do like the idea of people holding a high bar and us as crafters who are trying to level up our skills working to meet that bar, right? And all that to say that, a lot of people believe you can't call yourself an intermediate if you can't put in a zipper pretty easily, right? That you know how to do it so well that you don't have to look at a video tutorial. Which is fine if you have to, right? But not if you're an intermediate. If you're an intermediate, the idea is that you should be able to put in a zipper pretty easily every time that you're asked to do that, right? And I'm not there, right? I have all of the other skills of intermediate, right? I know how to do a lot of those, all of those things, except the zipper. And so we're gonna get over that fear, and we're just gonna practice, and if it turns out hideous and horrible, then that's part of the process too, right? That's something that I also have to remember. Rubrics are not there in place to be completely, critical and they're there to help you build up to something, and part of that involves failure, right? So we're gonna give this a shot. I'm also particularly excited because we're gonna be making the Junie pattern by Tiana Herring, and I have seen versions of this all over my feed for a year. I've been wanting to make this for the longest time, and I just, again, haven't done it because of that little fear that I have. So I'm just gonna, get over that fear immediately. And also now it means that I get to make this dress that I've really been eyeing for a long time. In particular, I am interested in making a long version of the Juniper dress. I'll show you some inspo pictures here. I found some really cute makes on Instagram of different people who lengthen the pattern. And I also saw a video that one of you recommended by Rosary Apparel where she makes the Juniper dress as well. And I loved that video because the fabric that she used, which is a corduroy, is very similar to the fabric that I'm going to be using. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And I also think she made it in a very short amount of time. So that's also something that's boosting my confidence. I'm like, okay, we can do this. It's also not an invisible zipper, okay? It's like an actual, just regular zipper, which is much easier in my understanding to install. Okay, so this is the fabric that we're working with. We have this brown corduroy. It's so cute. I have a few zipper options. I need to go find them, but I'll show you them once they're located. I have one really cute one that I'm thinking that's pink, and it's got a little flower like in the top of the zipper. I do think that brown and pink are such cute complementary colors. And I am obviously a person who loves color and pattern and etc. So I think it'd be fun to do a little pop in here as well. So yeah, this is the fabric. I have to put together a pattern. Not my favorite thing in the world. I prefer printing A0, but it's the reality. I live in the countryside. Oh yeah, also, if you're new here, I'm Vale. I make vlogs about sewing, but also about living in Colombia and, you know, this beautiful country in general. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, I've got a little post-work update. I still haven't cut the fabric. I feel like I'm moving so slow. But the pattern seems pretty straightforward. Like, I think it's gonna come together pretty quickly. And I wanna get all that kind of like pattern and modifications and everything cut today. So I'll be ready to like hit the ground running tomorrow morning with constructing the dress. Here are the changes that I've made. So this is why it took a little bit longer. It's because I was making a lot of modifications to the dress. And like I have them here, so I'll tell you what I'm changing. The first thing is I'm sizing down by 2 sizes. This is because I made a video that was like all the things I want to sew in the next few weeks, and a lot of people were kind of mentioning this pattern and like giving us advice or giving me advice about sizing down. Like if you're gonna make this pattern, size down. So I would say that that is also true when you check Instagram and when you check like all these other kind of sewing places and also like the Etsy reviews, size down. And so some people are like size down by 1 size, but I think pretty consistently people were like size down by 2 sizes. So I sized down by 2 sizes, especially because I'm making like a thicker corduroy vibe. I'm lowering the elastic 1.5 inches. I saw some people do that, so I'm gonna do the same because I do have like a lower kind of waistline. And so I feel like that's a good change for me. I'm gonna change the elastic casing fabric. So inside there's this piece that is the elastic casing. Yeah, it's like this. You cut it on the fold and you like are gonna sew it on the inside of the garment, and that's where you're gonna put the elastic, right? So this I'm gonna do in a different material than the rest of the dress. I'm gonna use like a cotton. I'll see what I have in scraps. It's on the inside anyway, so it's like all good. But the idea is that that's going to help it not be too bulky around the waist. So I'm not going to cut this out in corduroy. I'm going to cut this out in cotton. So that's one thing that I'm going to do differently. Oh, okay. That's the other thing with this channel. So this channel right here, when you get it in the pattern, it's like a straight line. It just looks like this, right? But some people online said it's better if you kind of do a curve because that's going to make it so that it doesn't bunch up in the back. So I kind of did that. Maybe it's not the best curve in the world. Maybe I'll like take a look at the fabric and like see like whatever. I feel like it's okay. I did an okay job here. I made it more curvy so that so it maybe doesn't bunch up as much in the back. Cool. And then the final thing that I did was I lengthened the piece of, or the pattern pieces. I want to make a long version of this. So I added like a ton here. Not a ton actually, it was 52 centimeters, something like that I think I added. Anyways, I don't remember. It was 50 something centimeters that I added to that lengthened shortened line. And I think that that should be good. I think that this does bunch up, right, because it has the elastic. So right now, if I hold the piece, it is to my ankle. And I think that like when I put the elastic, it's gonna go up a little bit more. So I'm okay with that. I could also always hem it and cut it a little bit more. But the pattern itself, from what I'm looking online, is quite short. I think it was drafted for a person who is 5'5", and I'm 5'9". So I'm already like taller than it was intended. And when I see how the pattern actually comes out on people, it feels like it looks very short, which I love. Like if this was like for a different, even making it a corduroy very short with tights, like that's such a cute outfit. But because I want to make it long, that just signals to my brain like, oh, I got to add a lot. Okay, those are the modifications I made. So tonight I'm just going to finish cutting the fabric, and then I'm just going to clean up my studio and make sure that I'm ready to go, because I really want to wake up early tomorrow so that I can do a few hours of sewing, and hopefully it all comes together really cute. Okay, it is the next day, and it's like 6 in the morning. I'm like up with the roosters today because I made a huge mistake yesterday, and I just had to kind of like put this aside and take deep breaths and just like come back to it with a fresh mind. I think that when I make mistakes this big, I'm always caught in the position of like, do I finish this or do I just kind of give up? And I have to push myself to not give up, because again, this is part of the process. Here's what happened. I was tired. Don't cut your fabric when you're tired. I feel like everybody says this, and I never follow that rule, and I end up in these situations. So I was like kind of trying to guesstimate how much I could lengthen my fabric based on the amount of fabric that I had, and I made it work. So I got the fabric cut out for the main pieces, and then I had like a big chunk left, and I was like, oh, like I usually don't really even like put pockets in my stuff, because I'm usually like, I don't have enough fabric, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna put the pockets, or I cut the pockets out in a different like fabric. And I was like, oh, I have plenty of fabric. So I went and like used like 2 pieces of prime real estate to cut out these 4 pockets, because I was like, that's the only pattern piece that's left. Like the only other thing that's left is like the waist channel, which I'm gonna cut out in a different fabric, and the collar, which I have enough scraps for. I forgot about the sleeve, because I'd put this aside somewhere. I think I put it like back there behind my machine when I cut it, and I didn't see it. And I'm like, how can I think about the sleeve? Anyways, so I didn't see these sleeves. And now I have a bunch of scraps. Like I do think I have enough fabric, but I think the difficult part with corduroy is that it is not very forgiving. Like you have to cut it facing the right way. Like if you patch it, you can tell. So that's where I left it last night. I was like, I didn't even freak out. It was like, you know, like when you freak out so much, it's like a silent freak out. You're like, I'm just gonna put this down. Like, I don't know. So here's some things that I think I'm gonna do. The first order of business is to try to patch together as much fabric as I can and see how it looks. If it doesn't look too terrible, then I will try to cut 2 sleeves out. Now I have seen online that people cut these sleeves down a lot. Like they really feel like the sleeve is very, very large, and so they cut it down, like they shorten it. So I'm like, okay, I can shorten the sleeve probably like by about that much, and it would still work. So maybe I'll shorten it as well, so that like I have to just find less fabric. So I'm gonna try to do that. That's one option. The other option is to cut these out from the main fabric that I am using for the bodice, and to just shorten the bodice and be like, it's just going to be a shorter dress now. But then it's going to be that like awkward knee length. I mean, I could just go short. I could just be like, I'll make a short version of this, and I'll get these sleeves out of the main bodice. So that's option number 2. We're going to play around with those now and see sort of like where I land. So those are my 2 options. The first is like, maybe I can like cobble together some sleeves and it won't look too terrible. The other option is, yeah, cut it from the main bodice. Okay, so like if I shorten it to this much, and then I put it on the fold, and I try to get it on the folds, I only need about that much on each side, but 4 times. I'm like, do I even have enough? But I feel like that wouldn't look too terrible if there's a seam going down the middle, because there's going to be a seam going down the middle of the top here anyway, because of the front bodice and the back bodice. So it's like if it has a seam, just like here, kind of like, see how this has a seam down the middle because they attach the front and the back bodice, but then the sleeve doesn't have a seam, ideally. But it wouldn't look so bad if it had like another seam here, right? So that I think could be like my first option.
I need to calm
I'm not gonna
down.
freak out. We're gonna push through. We're gonna finish this. Yeah, let's go. I've got a little update. So I was able to get out a version of the sleeve, let's call it, okay? I was able to sort of cut out a sleeve about this big. It feels pretty small. I had to trim it on the side a little bit, and then I had to trim it on the bottom a little bit. And, you know, I feel like the way that the sleeve falls is that it kind of falls right there. Like it falls kind of lower. So I'm hoping it won't, you know, I'm wearing a very baggy jacket and it still fits on top of it. So I feel like it's okay. I'm just gonna have to play around with it and finesse it into the armhole when I get there. And I might run into trouble. I don't know. But I was able to get 2 of those out. This one was like right at the edge of the fabric. Like this is gonna be part of what's gonna be left. And I'm gonna have to serge this down and try to get it as like trimmed down as possible. But I'm okay with that because that's the under part of the sleeve, and that, you know, it won't be so noticeable, I hope. But I had to make these choices because it is corduroy and you can see the seam. Like even if it's subtle, you can see that there's a seam there. And so I really have to make sure that that is down the center, and that it matches up with the seam on the bodice. And that was hard because I didn't have that much fabric, so I had to do that. I also had to cut the collar. It's 2-sided, so you have 2 of these sort of collar pieces. Again, this should have been on the fold, didn't have enough fabric, so I went ahead and combined those 2. I also serged those sides separately and like ironed it open. I just think that lays a lot nicer with corduroy. Usually, like when I'm sewing with cotton, I won't be so strict about what direction or how I do my serging. I just kind of like serge it all together and iron it to one side. But with thicker fabric, I have learned that it's better to have as many of your seams lying open like this. It'll look less bulky up here. And then actually you can do some top stitching. I might consider that too. We'll see once the whole thing is together. So I have 2 of those pieces. Okay, the next thing was I went zipper digging. I have a ton of zippers because I cannot tell you the number of times that I've said like, I'm gonna put a zipper into this project. And then I'm like, oh, actually I'm gonna make an elasticated bag. So I have so many different zippers that I started to get it kind of mixed up in my mind around like which ones were really long and which ones were just like regular size and which ones were kind of long. And so I found these zippers that I really did like that had these cute little emblems or like zipper parts. I don't know what this is called. That were like little hearts and little flowers, and it had this really cute pink one that I think would have looked great with brown, but it just wasn't long enough. And so I kind of had to make the decision of, okay, if I want to use the zipper, I'm just going to have to cut the fabric, or cut the bodices and just make it the original short version of the dress. But then it's like, well, I just went through all the trouble with these sleeves because I wanted to make this dress longer. So anyways, I have one long zipper, and it's this one, which is like a black and silver zipper. I feel like that goes. I actually do tend to think that brown and like black go together, but I know that's controversial. I don't know why. I feel like people are very passionate about that black and brown don't go together. So sometimes I stay away from the color combination because I'm like, do people hate this? I mean, not that it matters, but I don't know. I'm like, I don't feel strongly enough about black and brown to like make this decision in my everyday wardrobe. So I'm like, okay, does that look, I mean, looking at it, it looks cute. I feel like, because you're going to kind of picture, this is the wrong sort of side, but picture it kind of going like this. I feel like that's cute. Anyways, I have no choice because it's the only long zipper that I have. What I do like about it is that it opens at the top and at the bottom. which is cute because then you can style it a little differently. I am starting to consider this version of my Juniper dress more of a toile, like more of a sample, because I've made so many little mistakes here and there. Like I should have thought about the zipper before. I made the whole issue with the sleeves, and that's okay. It's like good to sew a sample. I just feel like I don't do it. Like I very rarely make a sample of something before sewing it. Not great practice, but I'm always usually like excited about using the fabric I'm using. I don't know. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, like this is the final version, but actually no, this can be a sample and then I can get another fabric and make it again because it's cute. Or maybe I tried it on and I'm like, I absolutely hate it. I'll never make it again. I don't know. All right. So those are kind of the updates. The next part is to start constructing. I'm actually not sure if this pattern has a video. I'm going to go look for it. I think it does. And then I'm going to start constructing. I'll kind of let you know how it goes as I construct. Okay, we've made a lot of progress. Okay, we've got what looks like a bodice. I've also pinned the channel, so I'm going to sew the channel down. I feel like that is next. The only thing I was supposed to do is take a look at the channel to make sure that it's, you know, where I want it to be. And I think it is. It's going to be right at my waist. Yeah. I think that makes, I'm looking at the pins on this side, that makes sense, yeah. Otherwise it would have been too high because of my bust size. So I do think that works great. Honestly, the pattern's coming together pretty smoothly. There is like a lot of prep, like there's a lot of like different little steps, like stay stitching different parts of the outfit so that it doesn't like move. Little things like that. Nothing too crazy, but just little tips that I followed all the way through. Okay, I'm going to pin down the channel, and then what's up after that? Oh shoot. After pinning down the channel, it's the zip. It's time for the zipper. Ah! Okay. So funny. By the way, this does have a video tutorial, so that is amazing. But this part is so funny. Next up, installing the zipper. We'll get through this together. Okay, let's see. I guess maybe I should do this off camera. Should I do the zipper on camera? I don't know. It's gonna be okay. Oh my God, I did it. I sewed in my first zipper. This is crazy. This is a long time coming. Okay, look at this. I had to do a lot of it off camera because I freaked out because this is a two-way zipper, and so the original pattern asks you to sort of enclose the zipper. So I was going through the process of doing that, and I was like, wait, this is a two-way zipper, so I had to do that separately. So I didn't join the bottom part. I'm going to leave that open so that you can open the zipper from both sides. But I'm like, this is like the part that I was the most scared about. And it's done. And it doesn't look bad. You can't really see the black. So I love it. I think all I have left is like the collar and the sleeves and then hemming it. So that's pretty exciting. It's starting to get darker on here, so I think that I'm going to take this as a win with the zipper and close up for the night and just pick this back up tomorrow with the parts that I think are, in my opinion, pretty simple. The sleeves, the collar, the hem, and inserting the elastic. I think the elastic's really going to push it up, which is exciting. Okay, see you tomorrow. Okay, I've done quite a few things. I put in the collar, I put in the sleeves, and I ironed everything. Oh, and I put the elastic in. So this thing is really coming together. The next part was to hem it. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like, well, it's super long. It hits me at like my ankles, okay? So it's very long, which is good to know, because if I ever want to make this again, I kind of know that that's like this pattern that I cut out is my full length. But I do want to cut it or hem it really like to like shorten it, but also I want to put a really like thick hem on it because I think that that's going to look cuter. So I'm going to hem it quite a bit. I'm going to hem it probably like that much. So that's going to be cool. I also need to give this one more fold over because you can see the white serger thread. I feel like that's not such a big issue if you use a different color serger thread, but I never change my serger thread ever. It's a bad habit. I also never have like other colors for the serger thread. But at the same time, I do think that sometimes the garment, whenever you can see the serge, I'm like, I don't like that regardless of what color it is. So I just think that it's an opportunity to finish it a little nicer, right? Because I don't want to see any of the serger from the outside. Okay, so how am I feeling about it? I'm feeling really good about the construction. I made a lot of mistakes making this, a lot, okay? I put the sleeves in wrong. The sleeves are still actually really roomy. I had to cut the sleeves down so much that I was like, oh, it's gonna be a completely different size to the armhole, but it actually wasn't. Like, it was a little bit, but like I could ease it in pretty easily. And also I had to like put these like sleeves together and have like sort of, cobble together some pieces of fabric. And even that looks fine. I do think that because this is corduroy, it has a nap, and I don't think all of the pieces are facing the same direction. And I knew that was going to be true because it's just like I had to cut things the way that I could figure out how to cut them. And you can kind of tell from here, from the light. Maybe you can't tell on camera, but that's one thing. I also, again, don't know if this is necessarily my style because it's very like top heavy. And I have a large bust. And so I do think that with a large bust, like covering all of this up, like is not necessarily what I go for. But at the same time, I said this to my husband, I was like, I don't know that I would buy this in the store per se, but I would I would see it in a store. Like it's well made. So that's really what I was going for, and this was, I think, fabric that no matter what was a little questionable on my part because I definitely was going through my stash like, why did I buy the Shrek fabric? Like I look like I'm going to be an extra in like Nacho Libre. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not necessarily the choice I should have made, but I do think that this is really cool. And if you're somebody who likes to wear a high neck sort of situation, this is very interesting. I also want to style this a little bit differently. So I'm going to sort of give that thick hem like I mentioned, but I want to style this with like jeans underneath so that it just like has a little bit more of an ease and maybe put a belt on it. Although it does have this elastic. I need to make the elastic tighter. I feel like that's definitely one thing I want to do right now. I'm going to fix the sleeves, make this tighter, make a huge hem, and then I will show it to you all kind of styled up the way that I'm more envisioning it because I think that that's just really how I'm going to wear it. So, yeah. Okay, one thing I would say though, as I'm kind of like playing around with this is like, I would wear this for work. Like I actually do think that this is really up my alley for work kind of events. Maybe not when I'm like giving a presentation or anything, but if I'm like going to a conference or blah, 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 or like, some of the other things that I do, I think that this is a really big winner because it just feels appropriate. Everything's nice and covered up. There are some clean lines that make it look kind of nice. And I think if you wear, when you like actually fix up your hair and you don't have like the world's most fuck-ass haircut, but like if you kind of like doll it up a little bit and maybe wear a little kitten heel, like this is a really business bitch kind of outfit that I recommend, especially the long one. I don't know. This might be a cute little work outfit for an upcoming work trip. We'll see. Okay, wait, I'm like feeling pretty good about this look now that I've like gone to sleep and, you know, gotten some rest. I feel like sometimes there are some projects that are just like, there's so many challenges and obstacles that it feels like gritting teeth just like finishing them. But even then, that is a more favorable experience to me than like doom scrolling, right? Which like I have been doing maybe a lot more than I want to be doing. So that's good, because even though it was kind of like this struggle, it was like a productive struggle. I was like constantly thinking at night, like throughout the day, like, okay, how am I gonna do that? Like, how am I, whatever. And it was like a few days. But sometimes a project like this is good because it reminds you of that like, you know, even if you struggle, like as long as you're kind of taking it step by step, you're still gonna land somewhere that you're happy with. And that's been true throughout my entire sewing career, where it's like the projects where I've struggled the most, I've either learned the most or I've really just like realized, hey, like you can take the next step, and like you're gonna land somewhere that you're happy with. So anyways, thanks for watching. In the next video, we're gonna be making our Rosalia outfit. I have a lot of really good ideas that I'm excited to pursue. So if that's something you're into, stick around and I will see you next time.